Hey guys, Brandon here, Brandon's Fish Tank Channel. I just want to do a video on cycling. Unfortunately, I did a video last night, and it was like 20-25 minutes long, and it was actually really good, but it actually got deleted. So I'm going to try and make it again, maybe try and make it a little less long, but I just want to, someone left me a response, about cycling on my New Year's update video, and they wanted to know how to cycle your fish tank. If you didn't know, this is Zeus, the newer beta. Well, I've had him for a while. He's actually older than all these other betas, but this is the new one in the tank, just so you know. So I'm going to talk a little bit about cycling, what it is and why you have to do it. So, to start off, every fish tank has to get cycled. You know, your little fish bowls won't need to be cycled, but your fish tanks will need to be cycled. Cycling is extremely important because what happens is you're going to need biological bacteria to break down ammonia in your fish tank. So, fish, such as your betta fish, everybody wants fish in their fish tank, obviously, but you can't just run your tank for 12 hours and then once that's done, just go out and buy a ton of fish and your tank's done. You do have to cycle the tank. So basically, fish will secrete ammonia. We secrete ammonia from our urine, but fish do it from their gills. Also, uneaten food produces ammonia, and so do they secrete it from their gills, uneaten food, and their waste. So, ammonia is toxic to fish, even in small levels. Some hardier fish can handle it more than others, obviously, but you don't want any ammonia in your fish tank after it's cycled. So, if you just throw a bunch of fish in there, there's going to be a ton of ammonia, and it's going to kill your fish by ammonia poisoning. So you don't want to do that, and what you have to do instead of that is cycling your fish tank. So cycling your tank is basically building up biological bacteria to break down that ammonia. So to cycle your tank, there's a couple of different methods. The whole nitrogen cycle goes, first off, your fish are going to produce ammonia, and then the biological bacteria will be established and turn that ammonia into nitrite. Now after this, the nitrite, another type of bacteria, will consume that and turn it into a byproduct of nitrate. So then nitrite is your second one right here, so this one's ammonia, then you got nitrite, and then nitrate. So nitrate's the last one. Ammonia happens first, nitrite is the second, and both these two are really toxic, and then nitrate happens after that, and nitrate isn't as toxic. It can be toxic in high quantities, but if your tank's cycled and you do enough water changes, you won't have a ton of nitrate because it gets removed from water changes or from plants. Plants also absorb nitrates, kind of like a fertilizer. So yeah, there's a couple different methods to cycling your aquarium. The first one is going to be the live fish cycle. Some people will find this immoral, or they just don't like to do it this way. I've done it this way, and it works out fine as long as you know what you're doing. You can either add a couple small hardy fish. In this case, I'm doing a 5-gallon with the betta fish. Betta fish are really hardy, so I can just put the betta fish in, wait like a month or two, and it'll be cycled. You're still going to want to do your water changes, but if you're just doing a betta fish tank, then bettas don't give off that much waste, and just if you're keeping them in the recommended minimum, which is 5-gallon, it's not that many fish, you know. It's a good starting point, and they're hardy, so they can live through this first few weeks of ammonia and nitrite being exposed to them. So basically, what you're going to want to do is go out to the pet store. Your fish tank should be running for, 12 to 24 hours before. Usually 24 is a good minimum, just to make sure your temperature is good and that your filter and equipment is working well, and that your heater is working well. And then you want to, after that, make sure that your filters run, your lighting's good. You probably want to get a timer for your lights and that your filter is running. Heat is set to the good temperature. Then go out and buy a couple small hardy fish, depending on the size of a tank. You know, a 5-gallon, you're not going to be able to really stock fish in it unless you're going real small fish, like ember tetras and stuff. I don't know if I'd keep ember tetras in a 5-gallon. I'd keep them in a 10, but I don't know about a 5. But no, so you'd want to go get your fish. Let's just take that we're having a 14-gallon. I could go out and get, 3 tiger barbs, and that would be good, because tiger barbs are good hardy fish. Lots of different types of barbs are good. Danios, zebra danios are used a lot. I'm just going to show you this dwarf's edge right here, because that stuff's going crazy. I thought it wouldn't melt, but it's actually doing really good. And setting out a ton of runners. This stuff's actually crazy. I love it. Anyways, though, back to cycling, because I don't want to get sidetracked. But yeah, so a lot of people will think when you do a water change, you're going to remove bacteria. So don't use that as an excuse to not do water changes, because that's not true. This good bacteria that I was talking about that's going to consume your ammonia, nitrites, that will attach onto your substrate, which is mine's gravel. In most of my tanks, it'll attach onto your gravel. It's not free swimming, so it'll attach onto your gravel, and it'll also be in your filter. Your filter is pretty important, and there's a couple different filter types. So this is your hang-on back standard filter. I'm trying to let this camera focus in. This filter is a little gunked up because this tank wasn't really properly set up, I guess you could say. So I have, a lot of debris right there. Lots of that is actually good biological bacteria, though. And it's starting to form on this filter part right there, and it will form on the filter cartridge. A lot of that green stuff that you see on there, some of it's algae, but a lot of it's biological bacteria. So, as far as your filter goes, you never want to replace your biomedia, which is something like this. I'll show you a couple other filter setups, and but you do want to replace your filter cartridge. They recommend every month. If you're doing a lightly stocked tank, I'd do it every 2 months, or if you're running 2 filters, change them, every other month. Do one 1 month, and then one the next month, and continue your cycle, just so you give it some time to build up the bacteria. Anyways, though, so this is one way to do it. You add your fish, feed them lightly, because they're going to be stressed out already, and food will make them poop more, and they'll produce more ammonia. So feed them lightly, don't feed them too much food, and then after that, you also want to do, give them water changes. Don't overdo it on the water changes, but also don't underdo it. You still want to do, 25% weekly. Test your water, not like daily, but as much as you think you need, at least once a week, just to make sure that you're not having too high ammonia, because if you're having too high ammonia, you're going to want to increase those water changes until the tank is cycled. So once the tank is cycled, basically you'll go through the ammonia phase, the nitrite, and they'll come in spikes. Your fish tank will be doing good for a day or two with fish, then boom, an ammonia spike would happen. Then after that, a week later, a nitrite spike would happen, and then a nitrate spike would happen. And once you got that nitrates, you're good. You're pretty good. You want to start doing more water changes, and you can start stocking with fish. You don't want to add too many fish at the same time, of course. We're just going to go over to the 6-gallon. You don't want to add too many fish at the same time. If you're doing stuff like neons, then, you could probably add 5 in a good tank, sometimes even more depending on the size of the tank. But don't overstock your aquariums, because it's a lot easier to maintain a tank with less fish. Also, just with plants will help absorb the nitrates, as I already said. So if you got live plants, that'll help a lot. So I wanted to talk a little bit about different filter setups as far as cycling goes. So this one's a little hard to see, but as you can see, I do have a bio wheel over here. So this is coming in some of the more modern kits nowadays. You you have your filter cartridge section right there. You got your intake tube, which is hidden, but basically goes down over there, comes back up, goes into the motor, gets spit out right here, and it goes through this filter cartridge and then through the bio wheel. And this is wet-dry filtration. As you can see, it moves. This one is a little, it might have some plant matter in there. I have to get in there, but sometimes it'll just go slow, and then it'll speed up eventually, or it'll just stay slow. But as you can see, it's wet-dry method, and that'll collect biological bacteria all in here. And that's basically going to act kind of like your biofiber on the other tank, basically, to build up your bacteria. Those are your other tanks over there, and we're going to go back over there and look at that, the Hex 5 filter. So that's one of the ways to do it with fish. Another way would be to use pure ammonia. And as far as this goes, it's also called a fishless cycle. There's a couple ways to do it. As you can see, same kind of setup, but you can see the bio wheel a little better right here. Just look at that. So the water is going to go through this filter cartridge. This is all pretty good bacteria that's building up, which is nice. So I'm going to let this filter cartridge in here for about 2 months because it's lightly stocked and I've got plants. And then this bio wheel, the water spits out right there, kind of, and spins the wheel, and then it'll outflow from that little ejection port right there, and come out into the tank in that port. So the fishless cycling, I'll just leave this cap off for now. The fishless cycling, as far as that goes, is that you're not going to add any fish right away because, again, I mentioned some people don't think it's right because the fish are going to be stressed out. It might lower their immune system being in high ammonia level waters, and it just can be stressful while the tank's cycling for them. So some people like to do a fishless cycling method. I've never really done this because if you follow the live fish cycle, it shouldn't really be that hard, especially if you're impatient like me and you kind of want to get fish in there right away, or at least have some fish in there, just a couple of them, to entertain you until the tank's fully cycled and you can start adding more fish. But yeah, so the fishless cycle would be either a couple things. One, you're going to use your foods and basically feed your tank. This one's flake food, and the other two are pellets. And basically feed your tank like there's a fish in it. And the food, again, will let out ammonia into the water, and it'll build up the biological bacteria, develop the cycle, and then you can check the check how it's going later. Just do your tests weekly and see how it's working, and then once you're getting at the nitrate phase, you should be good. So, that's a decent way to do it. You can also just add pure ammonia to the tank, which is bad for fish, but that gets the cycle started and builds up the biological bacteria to break down that ammonia into nitrites, then into nitrates. Another way to do it is to seed bacteria. Now, this method I've done before, and it actually works out really good. I did this on Winston's tank, and basically what you want to do is if you're running the same filter, which I have an Aquatech 5 to 15 on my 14-gallon and this tank, you can take the filter cartridge or the biomedia. Both of them are good. I just switched the entire filter, actually, and put it on the other tank. So this is only good if you're running 2 filters on that tank, though, because you don't want to take off all the biological bacteria on one tank, because that'll give you basically death. So you want to be running 2 filters on a tank and then take off 1 filter and replace it with the new one you got. So you still have 1 filter running with biological bacteria, that's good, but this one's being ran on the other tank. And eventually that other one will either be brought back here if you like it better, or once it's develop some bacteria on it, or you can just keep them running on the separate tanks. It's all up to preference. This one, basically that causes an instant cycle, what it's like to called. I never really tried it with a ton of fish. I'm probably going to try it, but and then I just put a beta in, so, and I never had any problems after that. I put in some Cories and they were fine. So basically it just causes the biological bacteria to quickly be introduced to the tank, and it should be cycled in a week. A lot of the times it's just cycled from that point on because you're basically giving biological bacteria to that tank. We're just going to go quickly to the 14-gallon and check out the biomedia there to see what biological filtration actually kind of looks like. So I'll be back in 1 sec. Almost there. Alright, there we go. So here's my 14-gallon. I haven't done an update on this tank for a while just because it's a wreck. I had a massive fish die out in it. I got a fungal infection, and I'm left with about 3 or 4 fish in here. Actually, no, closer to 5 fish in here. So here's the Aquatech filter I was just talking about on Winston's tank. There's your biofiber. I don't actually have filter cartridges in these because I'm medicating the tank, and a lot of medicines won't work with the carbon in the filters. So this is a good example of biological bacteria. As you can see,